Hello, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to a new series of Open Dialogue. Today's topic is a fascinating one. First of all, I'd have to give my, if you like, actual celebrations and congratulations to all who are celebrating the Prophet Muhammad's birthday this week, whether you're from the Ahl Sunnah or the Ahl Tashayyu. The fact is, during this week, we commemorate the notion of unity amongst Muslims and unity beyond that as well. So today's program topic is going to weave in the relevance of the prophetic, if you like, politics and his relevance in terms of his morality to modern day situations that Muslims find themselves, particularly in the Middle East. And with me in the studio, I have Brother Ali Al-Kebbani. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, a very well-known journalist within the Middle East, worked for many papers, has commentated on all sorts of issues surrounding Muslim politics of the modern era. And I think we're also going to be welcoming Molana Syed Muhammad Razawi very shortly as well. He'll also be with us on the show. Let's first of all focus our minds on prophetic politics. What does that mean? I think to contextualize that, then within the notion of a Palestinian state, let's talk about that, or let's talk about the Islamic state or Muslim states today. But of course, we have an archetype, we have a, if you like, a model that exists, and that's where I'm going to start the conversation with you, Brother Ali. Let's think about what the prophetic state was and what it might be today, because in the Palestinian case, what people say is that there's an Israeli state, and many of them are trying to deny there ever was a Palestinian state. But the reality is that anything that the Palestinians demand has to have some sort of connection to the prophetic morality and possibly the prophetic state. What are your thoughts, first of all, on the prophetic state, historically as we know it?
First, I'd like to congratulate the Ummah al-Islamiyya of the anniversary of our Prophet, the blessing which God extends to whole humanity. And then I have to say that in Islam, we are talking today about democracy and secularism and human rights. Islam came with the first testimony and the first pillar of Islam, La ilaha illallah, there is no God but one God. This is a testimony of liberation to all human beings. And the Arabi, when he first heard it, he said, this is a testimony which will make all kings and tyrants fear. Why? Because if there is no God but one God, then you fear nobody else. You don't fear the king or the tyrant or the ruler. So this is first the testimony of liberation. And if it doesn't liberate Muslims, so they don't benefit from their Islam. Then we have got la ikrahiyya, la ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. This is the best definition of secularism. Then we have got the freedom of choice, man sha'a falyu'min wa man sha'a falyakfur. So God gave every human being the freedom and the will to do what he wishes and bear the consequences. So that is the thing. Then we come to the first state in Medina. The Prophet established this state as a secular state. There is no religious state in Islam the way I understand it, because the Prophet made the charter of Medina, Sahifat al-Medina, by all the citizens who live there, the Jews, the non-Muslims, and the Muslims. And they agreed to everyone follow his own Sharia and his own religion and his own freedom. So Islam is a religion of freedom. It is a religion of no compulsion. And it is a religion which was spread by, they say, by the sword of logic and convention and no compulsion. So how could it be, if our God is telling us there is no compulsion in religion, how can we compel people by sword? We can't even compel them by words.
Well, what you've outlined is really interesting because, of course, the media, the Western media, the general trend of a lot of the Western establishments and the governments has been really to label Islam in the model era as a non-starter in terms of creating governance. And of course, ISIS has the inauspicious claim to the word Islamic State itself. Yet another, arguably the most successful prophet politically the world has ever known. And I know some Muslims like to divorce politics from religion, but I beg to differ. I have with me in the studio today Molana Syed Muhammad Razawi, and of course also Brother Ali Al-Kebbani, who's a journalist, a very well-known journalist within certainly the Middle Eastern world of current affairs. But Molana, I'm going to start this session with you. Basically, this idea of moral politics, it's rooted in the state of Medina. Brother Kebbani had earlier mentioned the Sulh Medina, the fundamental document, the constitution of Medina, which arguably is one of the first, if not the first, constitution of its kind, which actually gave lots of rights, almost pluralistic in their essence, if you like. Tell us a little bit about the essence of the principles within that constitution and therefore prophetic politics.
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I would like to also give my congratulations to the Muslim Ummah for the auspicious birth anniversary of Prophet Muhammad. And this is the week of unity that is being celebrated between Sunni and Shia Muslims throughout the world. And we are remembering the Prophet who came and gave this message of peace to the world and managed to very successfully attract whole masses of people around the world. And I was listening to Brother Ali at the beginning of the program, and recently I came back from Colombia and had a great opportunity to give lectures and have sessions and meetings with the youth in that country. And they were all quite interested to know if religion is, or especially religion of Islam, is separate from politics or not. And then I gave examples from Christianity, Judaism, and all the prophets of Islam or the divine faiths, and told them that, can you say, for example, let's look at the life of Prophet Noha, what he did. Was it a political action or just a social reaction? He was inviting people, he was telling the truth to people, and he managed to be successful up to some extent. And same if we look at the history of Prophet Moses, didn't he practice politics? If you look at the life of Jesus, didn't he practice politics?
They challenged the political order.
They did not separate politics from the guidance they were giving. They proved actually that they are the political leaders, and minus the prophets, you cannot have the politics practice properly.
So coming on to the Prophet Muhammad, who's the last of the seal of the prophets, if you like, and the last testament which he brings, the Holy Quran, is very, very political in its guidance. There's many, many political kind of statements that you could pick out there. But Muslims themselves have divorced religion from politics. Certainly the Western secular society would have us believe that religion and politics don't mix. But of course the state of Medina was the first example of the Prophet, peace be upon him, ruling as a full-on head of state. What do you see within that rule? What were the guiding principles of that constitution and of Medina?
Yeah, I usually give this example. For example, I mean, if you look at Islam and Islamic teachings, in Muslim country, if a non-Muslim is living there, and as long as they are taxpayers, they are fully protected in the Muslim society, and they are not even forced to. For example, if a Muslim country goes to war with a non-Muslim country, and there are non-Muslims who are taxpayers in Muslim country, in Islamic country they will not be forced to fight and join the army against
their own people.
And their property and everything will be protected. Nobody would be allowed to lift a finger towards a non-Muslim living in the Muslim society.
But complete freedom of worship as well?
Yeah. And as long as they are taxpayers of the Muslim, because we believe that we cannot impose Islamic rulings on a non-Muslim. For example, if a non-Muslim is living in a Muslim country, a Muslim has to pay zakat. So why should we impose zakat on them, which is not part of their practice? So Islam has designed a special tax for them. Okay, you don't pay the zakat, we will take care of you, we will look after you, we will not force you to go to war and kill your own type of people if we went to war, and you are protected. But if you come and look at this modern society, in present modern society, we see so many examples. These countries go to war with Muslim countries, and if there is a Muslim who does not agree with it, they would prosecute him. Muhammad Ali Kire was the best example when he refused to
join the army.
Join the army. You can see what happened to him.
Well, we have a caller online. I'll defer to them for a second and then come back to you, Brother Ali, with some fascinating ideas you were giving me before the show, which I'd like to draw out in the rest of the program. But caller, your question or your comment?
My comment, please. Can I talk in Urdu, please?
Yes, of course you can. Yes.
The topic you have, prophetic politics. I'm sorry to say this is not a right word for prophetic politics, because ये prophet ने जो निज़ाम हमें दिया है, they are golden rules. They are golden rules and they are divine rules. Politics is like जैसे वो धोखा, फ्रेब, झूठ. और नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का गोल्डन रूल क्या है कि एक मोमिन सब कुछ हो सकता है.
Okay, sister, sister, I've got your point. Stay on the line because Molana is here, and Molana will. I'd like to bring Molana in on this. Molana, our sister says that the word politics should not be connected to the Prophet in some way. But is it that her understanding of prophetic politics is a little awry, or where's the difference?
Well, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib ﷺ used to say that I am the best politician, but not the he would not play the dirty politics of the time, which is the politics that is played with the present rulers, including Muslim rulers of the time in Muslim countries. So Imam Ali ﷺ disassociated himself from the dirty politics, but he did not say that he is not the best politician.
Okay, Brother Ali, can you come in on this?
Of course, because we have to agree on the definition of politics. Politics is running the affairs of the people in a proper way. So, as you exactly said, if some people deviate from the proper way, this does not put the blame on politics, it put the blame on that person who is misusing his power and deviating from the right politics. Politics is running the affairs of the people. So the Prophet ran the affairs of his people at his time, and Imam Ali did, and the Caliphs did. So anyone who rules the Muslim nations is involved in politics because he runs their affairs. He defends them against foreign enemies. He takes care of the economy for the welfare of the people. So all these things are politics.
Yeah, so sister, are you still with us? Yes,
Hello?
Yes, sister, did you understand the responses, the idea of moral politics?
I did understand.
Akhlaqi politics?
But what's happening in the world today, like Hazrat Umar Farooq Radiyallahu Ta'ala, he said that एक जालिम के ऊपर रहम करने का मतलब ये है कि पूरी कौम के जो गरीब और पिसे हुए लोग हैं उन पर जुल्म करना। तो ये गोल्डन रूल्स जो हैं आजकल हमें मिल सकते हैं कहीं से भी, क्योंकि एक सहाबी जो है उसकी वैल्यू, मतलब मैं आपको बताऊं कि एक सहाबी जो है पूरी दुनिया के उलमा अगर मिल जाएं तो एक सहाबी के जो पाँव की खाक है उसके बराबर नहीं हो सकते। और अगर पूरी दुनिया के इमाम मिल जाएं, हजारों इमाम मिल जाएं, जैसे इमाम महदी ने कहा था कि हजारों इमाम मिल जाएं तो एक पैगंबर के बराबर नहीं हो सकते। तो हमें डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा कि पैगंबर की क्या हैसियत है। पैगंबर की हैसियत कोई छोटी मोटी नहीं होती कि 23 साल के अरसे में, आप मुझे बताएं कि 23 साल के अरसे में पूरे के पूरे इंसान को बदल देना, पूरी सोसाइटी को बदल देना, वो माशरा जिसमें अल्लाह ताला का नाम लेने वाला कोई नहीं है, अल्लाह ताला के सामने झुकने वाला कोई नहीं है, और उसके आदातो इतवार बदल गए, निगाह का जाविया बदल गया, जो माशरा बदल गया, कहीं कोई बिगाड़ नहीं, कहीं कोई खराबी नहीं, इर्तका है, तरक्की है। तो 3 बरआज़म पर हुकूमत मुसलमानों की कायम होगी, किस वजह से? उनके रूल्स की वजह से, उनकी सैक्रिफाइसेस की।
Yes, sister, I've got your message. Molana, can you come in on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, sister gave an excellent example from Hazrat Umar, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that he believed, what she stated, that itself is a political statement, that a ruler, for example, if you oppress people in the world, and you agree with it, you are going against humanity. And that's a very important ethical politics point of view. So I'm sure that sister is 100% agreeing that as long as the politics is based on the golden, as she described it, golden rules, and the commandments of Prophet Muhammad and all other prophets, that is the right politics.
But then you see, I think that generally...
But there is no doubt that politics has got the dirty name nowadays.
Yeah, because there is an immoral politics and there's a moral politics. Let's explore history a little bit more, because in the Sulh Medina, I mean, I was talking to Molana about the Constitution of Medina. Perhaps you'd like to come in on that period and your idea of what, your notion of what moral politics the Prophet actually brought. What were those principles that he brought in that state?
The definition of the modern politics and politicians have been spoiled these days. But as a Muslim politician is controlled by the rules and regulations of the Quran.
Yeah.
So what are the pillars which control the Muslim politicians? First, justice. So God sent all his prophets and messengers to human beings. I was amazed to hear from the Quran to apply justice.
Yeah.
ليقوم الناس بالقسط أي بعدل. Justice should control everything, because this is the main reason for religions, rules and Sharia. Then anything which is haram in Islam, a politician and the non-politician shouldn't do. So once you are controlled by all the rules and regulations of Islam in halal and haram, so you are a good politician, and your own aim is the benefit and the welfare of the ummah and the individuals. So this is politics, in my opinion and in my definition.
Thank you. We have another caller on the line. I will let callers in today. We don't normally do this too often, but I'm glad people are calling. Let's hear your views or your comments or question. Caller, you're online.
Assalamu alaikum, Mohsin.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Walaikum assalam.
Molana and your guest. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Now, Mohsin, actually, the politic word is an English word. Now, it is probably difficult for people to understand. We can say shahasat or whatever in word
Siyasat,
for politics in Arabic. So I think people are sort of feeling a bit confused because they put politics, every politicians are dirty. No, I don't think every politicians are dirty. There are politicians who are genuine, who is working on the fairness of the people and the country as well. And there are politicians who are doing dirty politics for their own benefits, nothing else. Now, the question this is to Molana. Molana, I have always thought, or probably, I don't know, this is what my understanding is, that azan is a political statement as a whole, because we are saying that there is nobody else than Allah, who is the creator, who is everything. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the sent messenger by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the difference here, when the Shias, we take the name of Imam Ali, because in Ghadir Qum, when the Prophet said that he is my wasi, he is going to be in charge. Now, azan was the only way where people would understand that there is a leadership of Imam Ali at that particular time. I don't know whether, this is my understanding. So, azan itself, I find it to be a very political statement all the time, because we are really saying it and we believe in that. I don't know what.
Thank you, Brother Azad. Let's Molana talk. The azan is political.
I would say the kalima is political. I mean, when somebody embraces Islam, the first statement the person has to do is a political statement. He has to deny all other gods.
Yeah.
Denying all other gods means denying injustice and accepting one God who is the just God.
It's a commentary on
a political statement.
How the affairs of the people will be managed. If you say Illallah, it means you're following a divine justice, a divine law.
You have to say law first.
Yeah, so that's
then you acknowledge
accepting his rule over political, religious, spiritual, cultural affairs. Interesting. It's getting much more interesting. But I'm still going to dig in with the state of Medina. I'm going to try and get to this constitution. Tell me about the constitution.
The constitution of Medina, Sahifat al-Medina, is the first constitution in the Islamic state in which all citizens have their rights very clear, and their religious independence and the right to worship according to their rules. And also it is in a way to create a harmony between all the citizens of this community. But all sections of that society should respect the constitution. So if you deviate from it, so you are not protected by that constitution.
So while Western Europe and other major empires were imposing despotic, autocratic, totalitarian rules on their people, and where women were treated as slaves or chatels, and the people were also treated largely as serfs and peasants who were used and abused by the imperialist powers, here is a prophet arriving in the middle of Arabia, where nobody wanted to really tread from the Persian Empire or the Byzantine Empire, regarded it as a backward area. And he evolves a constitution which has equality at its heart, justice at its heart. That's a truly amazing achievement 1400 years ago, which people can forget.
It's not the Prophet who came that out of his own initiative. This is the Quran. There is clear verses in the Quran to protect the churches and the temples of Ahl al-Dhimma, the Christians and the Jews. So the Prophet was implementing the message of God in Sahifat al-Medina when he made that constitution for all the citizens of the state.
So we have a blueprint, we have a principle, we have a book, set of principles, we have a book, and we have a prophet who implemented the system to leave us with a record of what a moral political state should be from a divine and from a prophetic perspective. There's no doubt about it, and we have documents which make this clear. Let me bring it to the 21st century. Let me rewind to a period where I think perhaps this was lost amongst the Muslims. Let me come to, let's fast track from the first four caliphs, and Imam Ali alayhi salam, including that period, and let's fast track to the rule of Muawiyah ibn Sufyan. So, Molana, there seems to be a fundamental change, and I'll probably let Brother Ali contextualize it, because I had a chat with you about this before. But what was different? What happened to the Muslims? What happened to the Muslim governance system, which was different from what the Prophet had created in the state of Medina, that happened in the era of Muawiyah? What would you say was fundamentally different?
There is hadith for the Prophet صلوات الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم الخلافة من بعدي 30 عاما ثم ملك عضوض. The Islamic State after me will be for 30 years. Then it will be a kingdomship. So what Muawiyah, when he came after 30 years, is to do everything against the Islamic State and to do individual ruling, while in Islam there was always collective ruling and there was separation of powers. For example, Bayt al-Mal was separate from the ruler. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah was in charge of Bayt al-Mal, and Abu Bakr could not decide his own salary, and the Muslims decided a salary for him like any average Muslim. So there is collective power, separation of powers, and if you see in the Quran, we never see Wali al-Amr, only in plural, Uli al-Amr minkum. So that means it's collective, it's not individual. So Muawiyah came and he made himself the only ruler. He controlled Bayt al-Mal, so he used to give money to those who support him, all the hypocrites and all the parasites, and he called himself, he is the successor of God, Khalifatullah ala al-ard.
Wow.
So that is completely out of Islam. And unfortunately, we can see the example of Muawiyah. Since that day until now, is ruling the Muslim Ummah and the
His
Muslim
model.
country. His model.
So his political model, i.e. an immoral political model, was something which actually many Muslim rulers have continued to adopt.
That's why Muawiyah relied on money to let the ulama justify him stealing the power. And all the rulers who came after him, the Amawis, the Abbasis, and all those, they don't love Muawiyah, but they love his example. And they want to protect it and keep it, and they managed to keep it until now.
Molana, you'd like to come in on this?
Yes, I mean, unfortunately, because the leadership of the present Muslim world is in the hands of corrupt rulers. So of course they will prefer to follow the example of Muawiyah rather than Ali. And Ali, when his brother comes for a personal matter, he doesn't use the light which was the candle that was from Bayt al-Mal. He said, "No, because you are discussing a personal matter, I'm not allowed to use this." So if the ruler is adil, he will take care of the Bayt al-Mal properly, and he would not allow to misuse. So unfortunately, when the rulers become corrupt, they take care of themselves. That's why Imam Hussein stood against the corrupt rulers of the time, because they knew. Imam Hussein very clearly said, I would not give my hands in allegiance to the person who drinks, who fornicates, who gambles, and who does not do justice in the society.
So now let me put...
He was misusing the Bayt al-Mal.
So having you gentlemen clarify what prophetic moral politics is, or akhlaqi politics, or divine politics, and distinguishing it from the emergence of an immoral politics in the form of a particular individual.
Like Yazidi politics, or Muawiyah politics.
Or Muawiyah politics, or Umvi politics, or Abbasi politics.
Or Trump politics nowadays.
Now, let's link that to today, even harder. The Palestinians want a state. Do we want a prophetic moral governance and state, and or do we want the Muawiyah style politics? Even if it's going to be in Islamic politics, which one are we going to go for?
We are in the modern world now, and we are talking. When we talk to non-Muslims, we talk their language. So we tell them, you call for democracy, democracy means one man, one vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't have the majority of the people living in occupied Palestine who don't vote.
Yeah.
So let the Palestinians have all the rights as citizens and individuals, even of the state of Israel. That is one thing.
Yes.
So democracy. The other thing, human rights. How can you allow a tyrant occupier to check people out of their own houses and get immigrants from Europe who are not from this land and give them right to have nationality? So you are denying the real inhabitants of this land from going back to their homes and allowing immigrants to come. This is against human rights and against international law. So we can take their language in saying, let us have a one-state solution in which we apply democracy and one man, one vote. The two-state solution is actually American invention to protect the Zionist state,
Yeah.
because they know that the demography of Palestine is a time bomb against the survival of this Zionist entity. So they want to protect it, but they are stupid enough, headed by Netanyahu, not to accept this idea of the two-state solution. That's why I refuse the two-state solution, and I'm not convinced that this is right, because they are going to give a minority of the land to the Palestinian to get rid of them and check them out of their own homes and homelands, which they call Israel now.
Now, let me link this, Molana, great appraisal there of Palestine in the context of maybe a prophetic morality. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, comes into Medina, he's invited by the citizens of Medina to come and act as arbitrator, as adjudicator, as ruler. And they accepted his word as final. He was invited. He didn't force himself. He didn't promote a campaign to get in there. He didn't play hybrid political games to manipulate the people of Medina to become a ruler, as many countries are doing today, using hybrid warfare for propaganda, fake news, and all sorts of other techniques. He was legitimately asked to come and create solutions. What I find interesting is you had Sabians, Christians, Jews, and there were arguably, people who were Hanifs and people who were following the Deen Ibrahimi in its authentic form as well, up to that point. So he doesn't throw anybody out. I mean, so what you're talking about as one-state solution in Palestine rings really true, that the Prophet, peace be upon him, if he was to be given this same problem of Israel and Palestine today, it sounds very much like in the state of Medina, he operated what Brother Ali is saying. Am I right?
Yes, I mean, not only first of all, he was invited. Then he cooperated with them. And then the next move, when he gained the strength in the city of Medina, and when he was facing opposition from outsiders who were coming to attack Muslims, he introduced a unique way of defending Islam. He went and instructed his followers to go and find the tribes who may not be Muslim, and he did not impose Islam on them, but their ideology, I mean their way of thinking is similar to us, and he made a pact with them to fight against those who are going to attack Medina.
And that's politics.
That's politics. So, this is called good politics.
Excellent politics.
Because he took care of the interests of the people of divine faith, and who had come to an agreement to live together with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And in that case, he even made a pact with non-Muslim tribes, totally non-Muslim tribes, and joined army with them, because there were people when Medina was attacked by the opposition, there were people who were non-Muslims, but they died fighting and defending Prophet Muhammad together.
So this state, and I'm talking about the dream Palestinian state, or the dream any Muslim state of today, not the ISIS nightmare.
Yeah, and Palestine is full of non-Muslims as well.
Sure.
I mean, there are Christians.
There wouldn't be any compulsion. They would get freedom. They would have plural rights, equal rights. Okay, so sticking to the state of Medina under the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, another thing that fascinates me is that there was a very visionary, holistic set of policies that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, evolves. And you can hear it in the Holy Quran. You can hear this dealing going on between God and the Prophet as well, in terms of how that state should be set up. So, for instance, there's a talk, the initiation of the himas, the areas of environmental sustainability, the conservation area where animals aren't allowed to be hunted and trees are not allowed to be cut, and there's a complete conservation of water and resources. That's a fascinating, very visionary thing to do, which was unheard of, because the oasis was actually dominated, as I understand it, by the Jews of Yathrib, and they were exploiting it for economic reasons, and they were actually restricting the nomads, tribes, and others. And the bazaar was also dominated by a set of elitist, largely Jewish merchants. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, also sets up another bazaar, where actually the prices are better, and he has an economic policy, he has an environmental policy. So aside from the political and military issues, having a clarity about what our environmental or social or economic policies is very important. Can we learn lessons from that state?
Exactly, because that would create harmony in a society, and it bring welfare society and rich society. And this is what the Prophet was after, to let everyone in his state enjoy that freedom, welfare, and civil liberty. So when we come, for example, I don't like, for example, when we say Islamic economics or Islamic medicine. There is medicine, there is economy and economics, but Muslims are controlled by the rules and regulations. So, as Muslims in economy, there are prohibitions.
Usury,
there is no usury.
No interest.
Yeah, there is no usury. There is also, we have to be fair in all our trading. We cannot mislead or fool people. So these are that's why, how did Islam spread? By the Muslim traders who went to India.
Yes. Yes.
When they didn't read Quran, they didn't see the Prophet, but when we saw the perfect example of a trader,
honesty, dealings.
Exactly. They asked about his religion, and they embraced this perfect religion. So that's why we Muslims today, we failed Islam. We are bad examples, not like our forefathers who really let Islam spread all over the world by their good behavior and good ethics and their Muslim example and prototype, which was shown to the world.
Well, Molana, we're getting warmer. I mean, I want to keep linking the comparison of the prophetic state with our modern state. So first of all, of course, Israel as a state, or even the Western imperialist states, with the kind of foreign policies and the devious machinations and the, I would call it Muawiyah-like politics, or the Machiavellian politics, they do everything for one reason mainly, and that's for if you like, economic interests. Their primary concern is wherever their economic interests come, the morality or the moral politics becomes absolutely moot. That seems clear, and it's time and time again we can see them killing people and destroying nations for the sake of oil, for the sake of trade, for the sake of their own interests, and they'll justify it. In fact, they say our economic interests. Anybody who goes against our economic interests, regardless of whether we're murdering, killing, raping, regime changing, you are essentially the enemy of the state. So, of course, that means that at the heart of the democracies we talk about, in actual fact, there's an immorality. There's a corruption there of the notion of justice. The Islamic State, as we've been talking about, would be totally diametrically opposed to this. The Islamic states we're seeing pop up, let's say the example of ISIS, that's the obvious one, which is a complete aberration and a complete affront to the Quran and Islam and the Prophet Muhammad and his version of the states. But I would say, let's say, take people like Mr. Erdogan of Turkey. Let's take bin Salman of Saudi Arabia as two examples, because they're different, have different governance, different processes. Let me focus on them. Are they good examples? Do they reflect the example of the prophetic state, either of these two?
Well, I mean, they should look at themselves. Are they following the teachings of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ or the Khulafa or Imams? They used to say, "Al-mulku yabqa ma'al kufr wa la yabqa ma'al dhulm." A kingdom can survive infidelity, but cannot survive injustice. If they are ruling their rule with injustice, this is not going to be beneficial. Or there is another hadith that كاد الفقر أن يكون كفرا. People, what makes people hate religion and leave religion is the poverty. So the ruler should do justice in the society and provide equal status for everyone, and his own lifestyle should be equal to the most downtrodden people. Then he would be able to set a good example. None of our present leaders are setting these examples. So
Okay.
Whether it's I don't want to name them, all these Muslim countries' rulers are same.
Yeah, okay, so it's established that we've got a pretty failed set of leaders who aren't following the prophetic state. I want to get it maybe in their defense. Let me put a defense up as devil's advocate. I can't be the devil, but I'll play devil's advocate for a while. It's they'll say, Mr. Erdogan will say, if I followed prophetic state politics, absolutely, then I would be overturned by the hybrid warfare of the Americans or the money lenders or the IMF or the World Bank. These entities, these bodies, which are very, very powerful on this planet, in Mr. Erdogan's viewpoint, they're probably more powerful than God himself, and he fears them overturning him. Do you think that's a legitimate argument, brother?
I would like to say something, actually, that there is a campaign of Islamophobia. And to face this Islamophobia, we have to tell the Western who are trying to propagate that there is difference between Islam and Muslims.
Yeah.
We can always judge Muslims according to their adherence to their message.
They're good or bad, yeah.
So, like communism. Communism is one thing, and the communists is another. So, you can judge a communist, how good communist he is, by adhering to his message, whatever it is. Capitalist, the same thing. So, you can judge Muslim according to their adherence to Islam, and you can't judge Islam according to the behavior of Muslims, especially bad Muslims, Daesh, ISIS, even anybody, even me. You cannot judge Islam according to my behavior, but you can judge me if I'm a good Muslim or a bad Muslim according to my adherence to my message of Islam. The other thing is Islam faced a war from day one. And the Prophet of Islam faced a war from day one. And I am always amazed when I read Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Malik Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. To you we worship and we seek your help. Seek your help on what? Iyaka nasta'in on what? On facing this war. Because once you worship God, you need His help, assistance, and protection to protect you from this severe
So
war.
having faith in that is important.
Exactly.
And our leaders don't have that faith.
So, they don't have that faith. And they don't know that we are facing a war against Islam.
They do nasta'in from Trump.
يستعين بغير الله.
Okay, well, Nasta'in is actually even Boris Johnson here, we're in the middle of election, it would be a wry of me not to bring British politics and Western politics into the equation and compare it to the Islamic State politics, because, you know, we're constantly brainwashed with this idea of Western democracy being the solution to all things, and how great Western democracy is in comparison to some of the Muslim systems of governance. And no doubt, if you put, say, the democracy here in Britain up against the system of Saudi Arabia, it would be pretty easy to destroy Saudi Arabia as being a worse model than the one we have here. But I don't want to let my Western friends off the hook.
No, but Sayyidina said
Yes.
something which is very important. A country which is established on justice will survive, and the unjust country, even if it was Muslim, it will not survive. This is the law of God. So the only difference between Islam and democratic Western countries, people tell me that in the Western world there is no values. I said, no, there are values.
Yes.
And there are freedom, and there are civil liberties, and there are protection of human rights. The only difference between Islam and what they apply is their values are geographical. You enjoy all that once you live inside England or inside France or inside the United States. But once you are outside their borders, they can kill you, smash you.
You're alien.
You are alien, yeah, as they call us in the United States.
So it's the immorality of the foreign policy.
While Islam, the values are universal.
Yeah.
Everybody you have.
Everybody. So you are not controlled by a geographical area to apply justice and to protect your rights and to protect your money and to protect your family. No, you are protected anywhere in the world because we have no geographical border which stop our values and principles.
Well, we're concluding the show. It'll be a minute each for both of yourselves, but I want you to train your mind on this idea of the hope and the dream which some of the Muslims are beginning to rise. I would say some of the Christian liberation theology in the South American states have that kind of dream. But certainly the Islamic Republic of Iran, the likes of Hezbollah, the likes of Hamas, the likes of various movements, which I call the resistance axis globally. Those who want to bring justice into the world and want to challenge corruption, challenge the hegemony of corrupt, tyrannical rulers, including the money-lending, hyper-capitalist system which we have. Do you think there's real solutions within that resistance axis? Do you think that's where we need to look for the alternative, the moral politics of our time? Is that resistance axis representing the return or the physical manifestation of modern moral politics?
I think we should not be afraid of not only Muslims, anyone who has submitted his will to the will of God. I believe that religion is submission to the will of God from Adam to the last day of this planet Earth. So anyone who has submitted his will to the will of God, whether Muslim or Christian or Jew or anyone, has to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's promises in Torah, Bible or Quran are not fake. God's promises are true. We should believe in that, and that's why there is a hadith, Al-Islamu ya'lu wa la yu'ala alayh. Islam will never be defeated. Submission, I don't want to translate Islam, I would say submission to the will of God will never be defeated. As long as submission to the will of God exists within Christians and Muslims and all the humanity in the world, as long as they submit to the will of God, they will never be defeated.
So God is for all mankind, and the Prophet Muhammad is rahmatan lil alameen. So Rabbil Alameen, Rahmatul Alameen, it means that actually Muslims, by our fitrah, by our religious conviction, have to be for all mankind and equal in our desire for justice, peace and love and all these things. One last word from you, Brother Ali, just in conclusion.
I always say actually that Judaism was revealed in the cradle of the pharaonic civilization, and Christianity was revealed on the cradle of the Roman civilization. Islam was revealed to very primitive people in Mecca, and Islam sparked in the hands of those people the greatest civilization humankind have known. And the Western civilization now lives on this Islamic civilization. So I'm always asked, why Muslims are retarded? I say the answer is simple. When they raised to the level of their revelation, they invaded and controlled the whole world, and they sparked the best civilization. When they degraded from their message, now they are retarded. So the solution, go back to the level of Islam, the real message of Islam, and we can achieve what our forefathers achieved.
Beautiful. Thank you very much to both Brother Ali Kebbani. We'd love to have you back again for another continuation of this sort of discussion. And of course, thank you to Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, Syed Muhammad Razawi. And thank you for watching this edition of Open Dialogue. See you again next week.